If a potential shutdown is resolved by mid-November, we're not going to see any impacts when it comes to fourth quarter growth. Can you put into context for us, is there a buffer timeline when it comes to the potential economic impacts, particularly when we are thinking about the labor market, for example?
I think when we're thinking about the labor market and the shutdown, it's important to zoom back and think about the bigger picture. One thing that I wanted to really emphasize is there have been a lot of claims that President Trump is going to use a shutdown as an excuse to fire additional federal workers. He does not have any more legal authority to fire workers than he does absent a shutdown, and in fact would be breaking with OPM precedent and prior legal rulings in executing further reductions in force. He has already fired hundreds of thousands of federal workers, and we're anticipating seeing that show up not in this week's Bureau of Labor Statistics report, but in the following one. That is an example of a Trump administration policy that's going to start dragging on the labor market pretty heavily, but we haven't seen it flow through yet. With respect to the government shutdown, furloughed workers historically receive back pay when the government reopens. There are going to be real costs to people who receive services from these workers. It's going to be really difficult for their families, and there are often knock-on costs in, national parks, concessions, purveyors not making money over the period of a shutdown. But I do think it's important to also keep in mind the greater stakes. Democrats are currently insisting that Republicans come to the table to talk about solving a health care crisis that is looming very quickly, thanks to a deadline imposed in the Big Beautiful Bill Act over the summer. We are going to start to see Obamacare exchange premiums rise by hundreds of dollars for families across the country, beginning when open enrollment begins on November 1st. And this isn't something where we can kick the can down the road or trust the assurances that we've recently heard that Republicans are not interested in negotiating now, but will be interested in negotiating tomorrow or the next day. So I think in thinking about the economic impacts, healthcare has been a huge source of job growth. In fact, it's been responsible for about half of the jobs created this year. And those cuts are going to have real economic repercussions.